Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
2 changes made by Brendan Rodgers following the 2-1 home defeat to Southampton last weekend. Following a guest appearance on Matchday -2, Christian Fuchs is in. So too Papi Mendy. They replace Ben Chilwell and Hamza Chowdhury. Captain Wes Morgan returns from injury. He takes a place on the bench. Kasper Schmeichel is the Leicester captain and goalkeeper. Back four, Ricardo, Kaglar Soyuncu, Johnny Evans and Christian Fuchs. Papi Mendy in front of the back four. Ahead of him, Jose Perez, James Maddison, Dennis Pratt and Harvey Barnes. Up front, Jamie Vardy, and on the bench, Danny Ward, Wes Morgan, James Justin, Yuri Tillemans, Damari Gray, Mark Albrighton and Kelechi Iheanacho. 2 changes as well from the hosts. They were beaten at Stamford Bridge 3-0 against Chelsea last weekend. Matt Loughton and Aaron Lennon are on the bench. Phil Bardsley and Jay Rodriguez come in. Nick Pope is the goalkeeper. A defence of Phil Bardsley, James Tarkowski, Ben Mee and Charlie Taylor. A midfield, Jeff Hendrick, Ashley Westwood, Jack Cork and Aaron McNeil. Up front it's Chris Wood and Jay Rodriguez. And we're just awaiting the confirmation of the Burnley subs.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, hello and welcome to Matchday Live here at Turf Moor. We're just looking from our commentary position over the Lancashire Hills. And then to my left I've got Gerry Taggart alongside us as well, who's admiring the view as well. Good afternoon, Gerry.
Good afternoon, Dan. Yes, beautiful here. Sun is shining. It's nice and crisp. What a beautiful day for a game of football.
Coming up on Matchday Live before kick-off at 2 o'clock, we'll hear from Kaglar Soyuncu, Christian Fuchs, Brendan Rodgers and Sean Dyche as well. As building up to kick-off with Gerry Taggart and myself, Dan Bates. Gerry, obviously both these sides come into this game. Obviously every team wants to win every game, don't they? But it feels like there's a lot more on this game at the moment, just with the way that the results have gone for both sides of recent.
Yeah, I think, obviously with the momentum that Leicester had built up in the earlier part of the season, and over, Christmas and New Year, you have to say as well, then it's been a disappointing time, yes, but, these things happen in football, and most teams have a little bit of a blip, unless, of course, you're Liverpool. But, we've seen again yesterday with the likes of Man City, almost losing and managing to scramble a draw. So, it does happen. So there's nothing, too much to get worried about. Yet concerned, yes, but, a good opportunity for Leicester today to come to what is notoriously a difficult Turf Moor. But up against a team that themselves are having when you talk about Leicester having a slight blip, well, Burnley, this is major issues. Losing 7 out of their last 9 games, losing 4 on the bounce, that is worrying signs. If you're a manager and you win and you lose 4 on the bounce, then more often than not your job's in trouble. Obviously Sean Dyche is slightly different for what he's achieved here, but big concerns for Sean Dyche and Burnley.
Well, perspective is a massive thing, Gerry, isn't it? You look at Leicester's recent results and it's 2 Premier League wins in the last 3 games, and that's the facts of it, that they've only 1 defeat in the last 3 in the league, and everyone's talking about this blip or this poor run. Obviously there was the disappointment of not maybe taking a lead to Villa Park for the second leg of that Carabao Cup semi-final, but they're still in the semi-final and well and truly in it with that 1-1. Obviously it was just the nature and the disappointment of that Southampton result that makes it seem a little bit maybe worse than it actually is.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you can be, yes, they didn't play fantastic football, but sometimes you talk about your own team and that they're not hitting the heights, but what a lot of people fail to understand is that there's another team out in the pitch trying to stop you from winning. And so you have to give both those teams credit, and in particular Southampton. Southampton deserved to win that game. They were the better team on the day, and that happens, and you have to be realistic about these things. Southampton were a decent outfit. They've got an informed striker who, at the end of the day, was the difference between the 2 teams. So be it. We move on today. So now, as I said, another opportunity for them to get back to winning ways against an out of form Burnley. It's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be an easy game for either team. But if you want to get back to winning ways, then this is the kind of form team you want to be coming up against, a team that has lost their last 4 games on the bounce.
Well, that's what Leicester will be looking at, and in particular the last Premier League home game they had here, Gerry. They lost 2-1 to Aston Villa. I know that sounds like a relatively close game, the 2-1, but in the first half, Burnley really were awful. Villa could have been 3 or 4-0 up. 1 goal was disallowed through a controversial VAR, one of those toenail offside type calls, so it could have been worse for Burnley on that day. And you get the sense maybe, and we'll hear from someone who follows Burnley week in, week out a little bit later in Matchday Live, and he says that, you know, if Leicester do take the lead here and it goes into the second half and Burnley are frustrating, you'll hear that from the crowd this afternoon.
I think that's important, and you know, that's an important point you make. I think whoever scores the first goal today will have a major foothold in this game and a major advantage in this game. So I think that's one of the things that Brendan and Rodgers will be saying in the dressing room. Go and score the first goal. Make sure you score the first goal today, because if you do, then your job of winning this game becomes a little bit easier. So that's a very good point about scoring that first goal. And the Burnley fans will get frustrated. There's no doubt about that. So again, if you want to help yourself as a team, then right from the get-go, you have to, you know, rely on doing the right things, getting the ball into the right areas, maybe not overplaying, maybe just putting pressure on the opposition, test out their defence, test out their, you know, their mental fortitude. And sometimes that doesn't involve, you know, the prettiest type of football. We know that Brendan wants to play out and play through the thirds, but sometimes in football you have to do what's right. And again, I would say putting, you know, lots of pressure early on the Burnley back line, and test them out, test their resolve and see what happens, and hopefully by doing that you get the first goal.
As we heard from the team news from our commentator this afternoon, John Dunn, there's no Ben Chilwell for Leicester City, not in the starting 11 or on the bench. Brendan Rodgers, in his pre-match interview, had said that Ben has played lots of football and was unavailable for some training in the week, so he's having a rest. Hamza Chowdhury was also unavailable for some training, so they've gone with the guys who have had a full week of training. I guess that's an important point, Gerry, and it's something that Christian Fuchs underlined on Matchday -2, wasn't it? That they've now had a week where they had a couple of days rest at the beginning of the week, didn't they, as he said, but they've had a really tough, intense week on the training pitch.
Yeah, that's right. He said he had a couple of really hard days, so, you know, for all those people that think, you know, a couple of days off here and there while having days off, they're only training, but believe you me, when you've played, as you know, the amount of games that these lads have played, a couple of days off does you the world of good. And then obviously talking to Christian on Thursday / Friday, then you realise that just because I had a couple of days off, the more they made up for it in the training sessions that have led up to this game. So, you know, yeah, I can see where Brendan's coming from, you know, and Christian Fuchs deserves to get a bit of a run in the team. You know, he's done nothing wrong. He's done really well when he's come in and played, and so he deserves it. You know, it's as simple as that. And I think that's probably, you know, should be the main focus behind his decision making. Ben didn't have his best game last week, but he's been fantastic all season. But Christian, when he has come in and played, has just slotted in seamlessly. We talked about it, and so he deserves to get a start today for me.
Well, one man that certainly has been outstanding all season for Leicester is Caglar Soyuncu. He's played in all but one of the Foxes' Premier League games so far this season, and via a translator he revealed the secret behind his fitness.
Tabii ki de bunun için antrenmanlarda
it's all to do with how you train. I try to give 100% at trainings. I try to fulfill all the tasks that are being given to me because the actual, you know, when you go on the pitch to play against these teams, the match itself and the training, it's very similar positions and situations, and you work hard at training and you will do well when you play against these teams.
So Gerry, obviously hearing from Caglar Soyuncu via a translator there, he spoke about how hard he works in training, and I guess that's an important thing for any Premier League footballer, isn't it? But if you're going to play, 21 of 22 Premier League games so far this season, obviously he's then starting again this afternoon, so that'll be 22 of 23, you have to be a very, very fit player.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's a lot more emphasis, you know, in the modern day era of training like you would play. You know, I suppose in our day, the emphasis, you'd probably have maybe 1/2 training sessions, and they would be on a Tuesday and a Thursday, where you would go all out. But in the modern era, I think every session is on a clock, and so you might only be doing 2-3 minute spells of training hard at a time, but you have to do it at match pace, and so there's a lot more emphasis on that. And I think, you know, when you buy into that as a player, then you see the rewards of that on the pitch, and that's certainly true in, you know, in Caglar Soyunchu's case.
And he's been so impressive, hasn't he? I know before the game you were speaking to another broadcaster, weren't you, Joe? Didn't get in the way of your LCFC radio duties, but they asked you about Caglar Soyuncu and about how immense he's been at the back for Leicester this season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me he's the perfect modern day centre half. He's got everything you want from a centre half. He's got pace, he can play with the other foot. But more importantly for someone like me, when I look at centre halves, is he loves defending. You know, he wants to go and attack the ball. He wants to get physical with centre forwards. You know, and that is unfortunately a trait that some centre halves have lost. So for me, potentially, he's got the all-round game. Now I'm not saying he's the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, but just his sheer desire, coupled with his natural ability and pace, makes him, you know, a complete all-round player. Yes, you'd probably say he won a couple of more inches of height or whatever, but I think what he lacks in that height department, he more than makes up with the rest of his game.
Well, Caglar Soyuncu was, of course, involved as Leicester beat Burnley 2-1 at King Power Stadium all the way back on the 19th of October. It was the first win in Leicester City's record-breaking win of results. So let's listen back to how it sounded on Matchday Live.
Comes across here for Burnley towards Wood, who nods it on, and he's found the top corner with his header. He nets against his former club. Just about the first chance they've had in this game. The ball broke on the right-hand side, it was lofted in, and the Burnley number 9 was there to plant it into the corner. It went in off the underside of the bar. It's Leicester City 0, Burnley 1 with 25 minutes gone.
And as we said beforehand, you know what you're going to get from Burnley. They're going to put balls in the box continually in this game. Chris Wood gets himself to the back post, and you've got to say, when that ball comes in from McNeil, it's from a deep angle, you have to say, but he just rises the highest, gets above Johnny Evans and Caglar Soyuncu, and that's a fantastic finish.
Barnes dancing past 2 on the left, swings in a ball towards Vardy! There's the equaliser! Jamie Vardy with the goal! We were talking about the headers, and Jamie Vardy responding to the Burnley fans who've been giving him a bit of stick in this game so far, and he springs towards the away section, cups his ears and says, how about that? It's Leicester 1, Burnley 1.
Harvey Barnes has got 3 Burnley players. He skips past Leighton, whips it in with his left foot, and Jamie Vardy, as usual, stood in the middle, 6-yard box, climbs above Ben Mee and makes no mistake. Fantastic header, fantastic cross from Harvey Barnes.
Nicely worked. Down the right-hand side, the cross comes in early, touched on by Barnes. Here comes the Tielemans! Lovely stuff from the Belgian. Everyone was waiting for the net to ripple, and he didn't disappoint. Lasting from close range, and Leicester have turned this one around. There's handshakes in the director's box from top, and that was a top finish.
He plays a little give and go with Ricardo Damari Gray, and was he there? He sticks the ball in the box first time. Harvey Barnes jumps over the ball at the near post. It goes through everybody, and Gerry Tielemans is waiting at the back post. He takes 1 touch, 2 touches to set himself, and then he rifles it into the top corner. Keeper absolutely no chance.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
Listening to Matchday Live here on LCFC Radio, live at Turf Moor with me, Dan Bates, and Gerry Taggart. Just listening back to that win, Gerry, that, as I said, were wins, but they were also hard-fought wins, and that Burnley one almost encapsulated a lot of those victories. They went behind, but they worked hard, and they always believed that they would get into that game and win the game.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a good marker when you play a team like Burnley and you come out the other end with 3 points, because they don't play, you know, the same way as every other team, and they're big, strong, physical, hard to beat, hard to compete with. So I think when you come up against a team, and what I mean by that is a good informed Burnley team, which they were in the lead up to that game. So it's a really good marker for you as a club when you overcome a team like Burnley. So that does not surprise me that, you know, that set Leicester well on the way, you know, to that winning run. So yeah, brilliant.
You look back, I think at one point Burnley were 7th, they were 8th in the Premier League this season, and then they've just had this wretched run of form. A lot of it you can point to injuries and to key players. I know obviously there's no Ashley Barnes again for Burnley today, who's vital, isn't he, to the way that Burnley play their game.
Yeah, they've been missing a few key players over the weeks that has to be said. Burnley and obviously none more so than, you know, Ashley Barnes. You know, he's a player that makes them tick. His link-up play between the midfield and the forward line is one of the best in the league. You have to say he's not the most mobile. He's not the tallest, the quickest, whatever you want to call it. But he is a very, very clever footballer, especially with his back to goal. And that's what makes him a vital cog in this Burnley wheel. And when that goes missing, similarly, a little bit like, you know, losing Wilfred Ndidi for Leicester, and it just upsets the apple cart a little bit. And you know, obviously Burnley rely heavily on their defensive solidity, but in doing so, then when the opportunities come along to score goals and you're not taking them, then the pressure then mounts and mounts and mounts on the defence, because you're not getting those goal scoring opportunities or you're not taking them. So that's again one of the reasons why you're seeing Burnley struggle at the minute.
The problem for Leicester, Gerry, you say problem again, we were talking about the perspective behind it. They're still doing brilliantly in the Premier League. You look at the table, a win for Leicester puts them in a strong position, level on points with Manchester City, which again, if you had offered any Leicester fan that towards the end of January, they'd have absolutely taken it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're all getting a little bit carried away with ourselves. There's not a lot wrong. In fact, there's very little wrong in this Leicester City setup. It has to be said, you know. Yes, the expectation levels grow and grow and grow, and rightly so to a certain extent, you know, but we just have to, you know, sometimes you just have to take a step back and actually analyse. You know, no one would be more frustrated than Brendan Rodgers, you know, but I think even, you know, if he continues on this, you know, if the team continue on this wave of expectation and momentum and performances and results, and Brendan Rodgers at the end of the season actually analyses and breaks it down, and Leicester finish inside the top 4, then you've got to say that is one hell of a momentous season that they've had, and nobody, and I mean nobody, could, you know, expect any more from that. You know, I think the goal was to try and break into the top 6/7 to give themselves an opportunity to get into, you know, Europe. So they've already exceeding expectations so far, but they're in that position, and so now, you know, obviously when you're in that position, when you're in a good position, you know, to finish in the top 4, it's all about maintaining that and making sure that you don't let yourselves down.
At the beginning of the season, obviously, when you look at the fixtures, one of those that you potentially look at and think it's never going to be a good time, is it, to come to Turf Moor, to come to Burnley, because as you say, the way they play make it so difficult to come here. But would they have been happy, do you think, Brendan Rodgers and Leicester, and will they be happy given the fact Burnley have lost the last 4?
Oh, without a doubt. I think, you know, again, there was a similar game, you could say, when he made all the changes down at West Ham, and West Ham were out of sorts, you know, under Manuel Pellegrini, and that turned out to be his last game. And so similarly, yeah, you know, as you say, Burnley is not an easy team to play against. Turf Moor is not an easy place to come, but Leicester have proven in the recent past that, you know, they've got Burnley's number, and that's when Burnley are in form. So they'll not get a better opportunity to come here and pick up 3 points, that is for sure.
Well, as we've said, Christian Fuchs was the special guest on this week's episode of Matchday -2. You can watch that back anytime you like on lcfc.com/TV. He previewed this game and said that despite the form table, you can never underestimate Burnley.
Well, they're going through a rough period right now. I think just 3 points clear from the bottom three. So again, it's one of those games when they struggle in the last couple of games. Everybody says, yeah, they want to come back, they want to fight back, especially at home. When they're on a good run, everybody says, yeah, they're in good form and it will be tough to go there. So it's just another game that we have to expect to be tough, especially Turf Moor. It's going to be physical. But we are ready for the fight. We are training hard that week. It's the first time that we have a whole week to prepare for the next game. So we are getting ready. We're doing our best, and we'll be ready to take on the fight.
He was great value, wasn't he, Gerry? He always is on the live shows when Christian comes on, and we had a good afternoon, didn't we?
Yeah, no, he's a really good lad, Christian. Really humble guy as well. And invariably, when you listen to Christian talk about not only himself but the rest of his teammates, he talks sense, and he doesn't try and cloud stuff up. He doesn't put too much spin on what he says, too much ice cream on the top, cherry on the top. He just tells it how it is invariably, and he's absolutely spot on. And he come into this game understanding that it doesn't. He said it doesn't matter what kind of form they're in. It's going to be a tough game. I think when you play against teams like Burnley, when they're not in form, it's all about just plugging away. Keep plugging away. Keep doing the right things. Don't try and do something you wouldn't do. If you were playing against a so-called bigger team. Just keep doing the right things, and sooner or later something will give. Somebody will make a mistake in that Burnley team, and that's when you have to seize upon your opportunities.
How much confidence do you think the Foxes will take from the game here last season? Harry Maguire sent off after 4 minutes, and they worked so hard, didn't they, to win that game?
Massive, and that's why I'm talking about, today, and that was against, a decent informed Burnley team. They go a man down and still, win the game. Dramatic winner at the end, but a winner all the same. And so that should give the players confidence in the knowledge, that they've came here before with a man down and won, and they come here today. Yes, they're missing a couple of players today for whatever reason, but there's no need not to feel confident in today. And I'm sure, Brendan will have all right, they've come off the back of a defeat to Southampton, but as I said, that does happen. It's no need to get all, get down and get gloomy about it. You just have to pick yourselves up, read the stats about the opposition, and then capitalise on their weaknesses, because you don't get on that sort of run of form without having weaknesses, that's for sure.
The Leicester players and the Burnley players as well have just come out onto the pitch here at Turf Moor for their warm-ups, and yesterday's results, Gerry, if you looked at it from a Leicester point of view, couldn't really have gone any better. Spurs dropped points, Arsenal dropped points, Sheffield United dropped points, Manchester United obviously play a little bit later today, so that, and Chelsea dropped points as well, so that chasing pack that are behind, they've all dropped points already this weekend. So Leicester then will be looking at today, and it's a real opportunity, isn't it?
Again, another tool in Brendan Rodgers' armoury. Sending the players, you've seen the results yesterday. A lot of the top teams not winning, drawing games. And so today, as you say, a great opportunity. So everything at the minute's working in Leicester's favour. They're coming to Turf Moor against an out-of-form team, and all the chase and pack, plus Man City, failed to pick up maximum points. So there you go, boys. What other incentive do you need? It's as basic as that.
Well, Christian Fuchs on Matchday -2 also spoke about the importance of having no midweek fixture.
It's not only about the training, but it's also about recovering from the weeks before, and that's what we did at the beginning of the week. And now we worked hard. The last two trainings were really tough. Again, getting ready for Burnley, preparing in the best possible way, not only on the field, but what also, when you have so little time, sometimes you also don't have the time in in the office or in front of the TV to study the opponent. So that's very important to do that now as well, and we're looking forward to it.
I guess we'll know in 2 hours' time the answer to this question, Gerry, but this week that they have had with no midweek fixture, it's the first time that they've had a free week since between the 8th and the 14th of December, so well over a month where Leicester have been playing Wednesday, Saturday, or however it may work, but that's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's down to the success of the team. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, and obviously included in that is the couple of midweek Premier League fixtures that you know the Premier League have put in there because of the, you know, this little mini break they're having in a couple of weeks' time. So, and it does take its toll. We've seen that. You see, everyone always talks about, you know, the Boxing Day game, and then the game that comes 2 or 3 days just after that, and then you see the quality in most games just drop right off, and that's for good reason, because the players do get tired. It's impossible to keep, you know, 100% of your fitness 100% of the time, and invariably over the Christmas and New Year period is the most congested period for these lads, and so you do see the quality drop. Also coupled with, and I'll keep going back there, the youth of the team. So I'm going to talk about the youth and the inexperience. I'm talking about being able to manage games. If you look at Johnny Evans, you know, he looks no different from the first game to the game last week, because he manages himself, because he's got the experience now to be able to manage himself through games. These younger players haven't reached that pinnacle yet, haven't gained that knowledge of how to manage a game and not just go gung-ho for 90 minutes, because obviously it's in their DNA to play that way, but you can't play that way every game. So as they grow a little bit more wiser, you know, learn how to manage themselves through games in tough periods when they're not feeling 100%, that's when you get the best out of them.
I mean, you'll know, obviously, as having played the game at the top level yourself, that when you have so many games like that and then you do get a little bit of a break, like they have had this, I say a break, it's only been a week, hasn't it? It's only been a normal midweek preparation to a Premier League game.
That's massive. Them 2 days off they had been massive recovery.
What does it? Why? What does it do to your body?
It just it stops you aching. it stops you waking up feeling tired, feeling, you know, in pain. You know, it just sort of gives your body a chance, your muscles a chance to recover and feel like any normal human being should feel like on any given day. And then that then gives you, you know, the respite then gives you the momentum to go forward into the next training session and go all out in that training session if Brendan Rodgers so wants it to be. But 2 days recovery is a big important time for these players. There's no doubt about it, and it shouldn't be underestimated either.
And as you say, in those training sessions, I'm sure they will give their 100% after they've had a couple of days rest. But how different is it then, say you do a double session, for example, how different is a double session to playing an actual game? Because I guess the physical demands of a 90-minute Premier League game of football is a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, well, you can never, the one thing about football, you can never anticipate what's going to happen. You know, some days you think you're going to have the hardest game of your life, and it turns out to be the easiest, and vice versa. But what you've got to be ready to do is to be ready to go full tilt at any given second, moment, whatever. Also included in that is all your emotions that, you know, you go through during a game. You know, that takes a lot out of players, is the emotional side of the game as well, the mental side of the game. So there's all these factors, not just the physical, it's the mental as well. And there's no training session in the world that can replicate what happens on an actual game day, but it gives you the best platform to be able to go out and produce the goods.
If you want to hear any more of Christian Fuchs on Matchday Manners 2, as I said, you can do any time on lcfc.com/TV, where the Austrian spoke about his time with the Foxes so far, and of course reminisced about that 2016 title win. He is in the starting 11 as well for Leicester this afternoon here at Turf Moor. Let's get a reminder of the rest of both teams with our commentator John Dunn.
Thanks, Dan. Christian Fuchs is in, so too Papi Mendy. Those are the only two changes Brendan Rodgers makes following that 2-1 home defeat against Southampton last weekend. Ben Chilwell and Hamza Chowdhury missing out. Captain Wes Morgan, returning from injury, he's on the bench. Kasper Schmeichel is the Leicester goalkeeper. Back four, Ricardo, Soyuncu, Evans and Fuchs. Mendy in front of the back four. Ahead of him it's Perez, Maddison, Pratt and Barnes, with Vardy up front. The bench, Ward, Morgan, Justin, Tillemans, Gray, Albrighton and Iheanacho. Burnley make two changes as well. Matt Lowton and Aaron Lennon drop to the bench. Phil Bardsley and Jay Rodriguez come in for them. Former Fox Chris Wood starts. He picked up a broken nose at Chelsea last week in a 3-0 Burnley defeat. Pope is the goalkeeper. A defence of Bardsley, Tarkowski, Mee and Taylor. A midfield of Hendrick, Westwood, Cork and McNeil. Wood is partnered by Rodriguez. And on the bench it's Hart, Lowton, Long, Peters, Lennon, Brady and Vidra.
Thank you very much, John. You'll hear from him just before kick-off here, which is around about 2 o'clock here on LCFC Radio. Still to come, we'll hear from Sean Dyche and Brendan Rodgers and take a closer look at Burnley.
LCFC Radio.
Boris Johnson says he'll raise the issue of the driving standards of US personnel with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo following the death of Harry Dunn. The teenager died in a head-on crash with a car near RAF Croton in Northamptonshire last August. The driver and Secoulis claimed diplomatic immunity and returned to America. The Prime Minister insists the government is doing all it can.
We're certainly raising all those issues about the driving habits of US personnel at the base, and we're continuing to work for justice for Harry Dunn and for his family.
The Duchess of Sussex's father has accused her of cheapening the royals as she and her husband prepare to step back from their duties. Prince Harry and Meghan will no longer be able to use their HRH titles from the spring, and they won't be publicly funded. In an interview with Channel 5, Thomas Markle has described the couple as lost souls. Former Royal Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter says their efforts shouldn't be forgotten.
Wherever they went in the UK, they did good work. They were embraced by the great British public when they first got engaged, and Harry took Meghan around the 4 home countries. They were embraced at the time of the wedding.
Meanwhile, the Queen has been seen with Prince Andrew in public, attending church near Sandringham this morning. It's the first time they've been spotted together publicly since he retired from royal duties. A summit in Berlin is due to get underway, aimed at trying to resolve an escalating civil war in Libya. The rival heads of the two sides fighting for control of the North African state are due to attend the gathering. The Met Office says a cold snap is going to continue until Tuesday. A cold weather alert across the country will be in force for vulnerable people. And England have made a double breakthrough in South Africa's second innings on day 4 of the third test in Port Elizabeth. South Africa are 30 for 2, trailing England by 260. That's the latest. I'm Daryl Jackson.
The only place you can listen to every Leicester City match online. This is LCFC Radio.
Welcome back to Matchday Live here on LCFC Radio with me, Dan Bates. Gerry Taggart sat alongside me live at Turf Moor, gazing over the Lancashire Hills. Now, what's this ground like, Gerry, as a player? Because you hear a lot of stories about it, that it's a tough place, and I don't mean obviously the fans, I mean dressing rooms and the surroundings.
Yeah, it's just not your favourite favourite place to come during your football career if you're in an opposition player, that is for sure. I've played here on many occasions, scored here once or twice as well, but it's fair to say the fans would always let me know I wasn't one of their favourites to visit here. And you could say, yeah, it's still a pretty old school stadium. If people have never been here, then obviously they've renovated, put the seats in and trying to do the best they can with what they got, but the dressing rooms are pretty basic. Not a lot of room for the players to get changed. Now they're all plush and all leather seating and things like that, but I think Burnley's pretty basic to say the least by Premier League standards.
How much does that, because you hear of some managers, don't you, that play on that and maybe play tricks with the away dressing room. How much does that play into your preparations? How much does that harm your preparations?
Listen, you sort of know before you come here. If anyone's got any experience of playing here, then they sort of enlighten you with that experience that they have, and then once you've been here once or twice, you sort of get a feel for the place and what you're up against. So depending on how you take things mentally, it either galvanises you as a team, or in some occasions it can sort of downhearten you as a player to be having to come here to play football, because it's not the all-encompassing stadiums that you see nowadays, i.e. the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or a Leicester Stadium or anything like that, or a Manchester United. It's not one of those places, unfortunately, but it's just another thing you've got to get your head around.
As we heard from Gerry Taggart earlier on Matchday Live, he said Burnley have lost their last 4 in the Premier League on the bounce. And Alex James, the football writer for Lancs Live, says that today presents a good chance for the Clarets to get back to winning ways.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity. They've lost the last 4 in the league. They did beat Peterborough United in the FA Cup here in the last home game, but performances haven't been great of recent weeks, struggling to create too many chances. They've been hit by a little bit of an injury issue as well. Ashley Barnes is out today, and Johan Berg Gudmundsson, 2 sort of first names on the team sheet really. So it is a really important game because they're in the midst of a tough run of fixtures. They had Chelsea last week, and they've got United to come in midweek and Arsenal to come after that. So this is an opportunity for them to get back to winning ways. I think there's been maybe a smattering of boos here once this season, but everybody's aware that Burnley are at the lower end in terms of budget, they're at the lower end in terms of wages, so I don't think anyone's expected miracles. I think that 7th place season is more of an anomaly than an expectation, so I don't think there'll be anything too drastic if they lose, but hopefully we won't be talking about that anyway. Yeah, I think Chris Wood in the reverse game, he scored the goal in the 2-1 defeat. He also had one ruled out late on after a VAR introduction, so he's sort of Burnley's main man for goals this season. Jay Rodriguez likely to come in. He's impressed in recent weeks, both off the bench and in the sort of limited starts he's had. And also Dwight McNeil is sort of the main man in terms of opening up an opposition defence and creating chances really.
The only place you can listen to every Leicester City match online. This is LCFC Radio.
Thanks to Alex James there from Lancs Live for that, and I guess he sounded relatively confident, didn't he, Joe, that Burnley can get back to winning ways or certainly address their losing slump this afternoon, and he says that if they are to do so, Chris Wood is going to be the man that's going to do it.
Yeah, I think when you look at the form they're in, Burnley, I think Sean Dyche should take a point today. You snap your hands off at a point because that stops the rot. Chris Wood is a threat, but Jay Rodriguez obviously is come in for Ashley Barnes. Is he an ideal replacement? He is a goal threat. He's probably a bit more mobile than Ashley Barnes, but as I said to you, if they're not scoring goals, Burnley, they're not keeping clean sheets, and that's their problem. So for me, if I'm Brendan Rodgers, I would concentrate on that. I would concentrate on putting as much pressure early on in this game on Burnley's backline, because at the minute they will concede goals, and that has been one of the probably most disappointing aspects of their game in the recent run of fixtures, is the amount of goals that they are conceding and the amount of opportunities that they're giving up, a la the Aston Villa game, which you would seem to have thought that would have been a game where Burnley could have quite easily have won that game, and they ended up losing it, and as you said, Villa having chance after chance after chance.
But that fallibility is just not something that you'd come to expect from Burnley, is it?
No, because they work so heavily on their defensive shape, and I suppose Sean Dyche could be forgiven for scratching his head and running around in circles, because at the minute whatever he says whatever he does on the training ground doesn't seem to be working. So even as a manager, you start questioning yourself: is what I'm doing the right thing? Why do we keep losing? Is it my fault? And so as a manager, you have to be very careful about what you say to the players, because when you come in after 4 games losing 4, you can't keep saying the same thing to the players, because it's not working. So that's another issue, and that's what makes confidence within the group weaken, so to speak. I'm not saying they are confidence wise that they're weak, but that's what can happen. So Sean Dyche has to box clever if he's going to get his team out of this rut.
Well, let's hear from the man himself then, Sean Dyche. He says that looking back on the result in October, he felt hard done by the VAR involvement.
I thought we got the wrong side of it that day, but it can happen, even with VAR, which I do think will come good. There's a few, many opinions on it this year, of course. We've had the right and wrongs of it, that's the way it goes. On that day, I thought we got the wrong end of it, and I thought we deserved something from the game, and I thought we certainly deserved another point, a very good, very strong performance, and a good performance, away from home particularly. They're a good side. I like the manager. I know him personally. I like what he's trying to achieve there. And the players, they've invested heavily in the players, but it's still a younger group who are developing all the time. And they've still got enough experience in there, with key players who are doing well for them as well. So I think it's definitely a challenge. We know that. They're coming up to Turf Moor. I don't equally think, we're on a tough run of form, but I don't think they're naive enough to think it's just turn up and get the business done.
Jerry, last week, obviously, the Southampton game, they'll have had the 9-0 ringing in their ears, won't they, from the manager and in their heads, and used that to motivate themselves. Do you think Burnley, after hearing a little bit of what Sean Dyche had to say, will maybe use what happened at the end of the game at King Power Stadium as a bit of a motivation? Because they, for all intents and purposes, thought they'd equalised, hadn't they, through that Johnny Evans own goal. It was then disallowed through a trip, which, on one of the camera replays, clearly there is a trip on Johnny Evans. But they did feel hard done by that day. Will they use that, do you think?
No. I think because it happens every week, doesn't it? Or every game. So there's a lot of water going under the bridge. He's obviously just talking about that actual game, but he can't use that as a motivational tool. He can't worry about VAR because, as he also said, it went against him that day. So that tells me that it has gone for them in the past. And so you can't really use that as a motivational tool. He's got bigger issues to worry about. It doesn't matter who Burnley played today. It just happens to be Leicester, who are sitting third in the league. So that's not ideal for him at Turf Moor. But his issues are far, far bigger than VAR. A VAR goal get disallowed. So he has to try and arrest and try and find a solution to conceding goals at home and also trying to score more than one goal in a game, which again has been a bit of an issue for them.
So what do you think he'll be saying then in the dressing room beforehand? Will he go for a tough love type approach, or will he leave them with a flea in their ear as they come out, do you think? How do you think he'll approach it?
It's difficult. It's a difficult one. That's what I'm saying. You've got to, as a manager, you have to, when you're on this kind of form, you have to be really careful about what you say to the players, because the players have heard it all before and it's still not doing them any good. The result is still the same, a defeat. So then you have to start thinking about, as a manager, well, how do I leave them? How do I leave them before they go out onto the pitch? And it's very, very difficult for me to sit here and try and, go through the mind of a Sean Dyche and wonder what he's going to say, because I'm sure he's tried every angle in those 4 defeats. Well, if you look at the last 9 games, he's had 7 defeats. So I'm sure as a manager he's gone through every angle, the hard line approach, the soft touch. It's hard to say really, but he needs to find something, that's for sure.
And as you said, the last thing they'll have wanted this afternoon was to play a side that are third in the league, looking to go level on points with second with a victory, after seeing the results as well that went in Leicester's favour yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point you make, because he could have been doing with a few clubs putting pressure on Leicester today, but they haven't. The clubs in the immediate vicinity, so to speak, haven't really put any real pressure on Leicester, and so that is not good for Sean Dyche. He could have done with all the teams in the immediate vicinity of Leicester City winning yesterday, but they didn't, so that's another thing he has to deal with.
Well, we just heard the Leicester City fans with their first renditions of Leicester, 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 as the Leicester starting 11 have gone down the tunnel here at Turf Moor. And
it's got chilly here as well, by the way.
It's got very cold, hasn't it? That sun's gone away quickly.
Gone, it looks like fog's closing in over the Lancashire hills, and I'm starting to feel it. I think the hat's coming on in a minute.
Well, those Leicester fans, though, to the right in the cricket field stand, Gerry, they'll be hoping for a repeat of last season in the sense of getting the 3 points. Maybe not as nervy and as late as Leicester did get that victory last season, then.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, it doesn't really matter how you get a victory, but ideally you want the game done and dusted by half-time. And I don't see any reason why that can't be the case today. It's as simple as that, really. As I keep saying to you, Leicester, you know, had a mini blip, but I'm sure coming here today and with the state of Burnley at the minute, then there's no reason why they can't come here and run out easy winners. You know, it would not surprise me one bit.
There's 4 or 5 Burnley players, Gerry, just doing a little shooting drill. We see this, don't we? Every single visiting team that comes to King Power Stadium, every time we go away, we see the opposition warm up. And Dwight McNeil, though, has just played a 1-2 with the person, got the ball back, and absolutely lashed one into the top corner. Now, he, along with Chris Wood, is probably one of the danger men, isn't he? He scored against Leicester last season here at Turf Moor, and he's obviously a dangerous man, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's a talented player, highly thought of, and you know, he's obviously a player that Leicester have to keep their eye on. You know, Leicester will have a keen eye on 2 or 3 of Burnley's key players in forward positions. You know, we've seen, you know, that they play a certain style of football, a certain structure, and Chris Wood, Dwight McNeil, and they're crucial to that structure. And you know, that's what Leicester have to be aware of. You know, crosses, shots, headed balls, you name it, it'll be coming quick and fast, you know, today for Leicester City, and they just got to deal with it. The back line have to be aware of Burnley's strengths, which there are in forward positions. There's no doubt about that, and they just have to be aware of that, and then deal with it, and then let the guys in the forward positions go and do the business.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure, will have been speaking about that in the week with his players, and he's been telling the media that he expects a tough game.
Listen, they're still a very dangerous team. You know, when we played here earlier in the season, it was a very, very close game, and it was one of my first games with Leicester away at Burnley when we won there last year. So, but no matter where any team sits in the league, the Premier League is exceptionally tough on every fixture you play, and notoriously everyone knows how difficult it is to go to Burnley. So we know that we have to be much better than what we were last week to have any chance of getting a result. And Sean's teams have always got great resilience. They play good football, and they will always test you. So it's a game that's a real test for us, but it's a game that we look forward to after a good week's work, and irrespective of where they sit on the table, it'll be a tough game.
That's Brendan Rodgers there speaking on Matchday Live here ahead of the game with Burnley at Turf Moor. Gerry, he expects a tough game. Every away game in the Premier League is a tough game, isn't it? And this is one of those places that traditionally is always so difficult to come to.
Yeah, you know, as you rightly say, every game, no game's easy, you know what I mean? And I always say that, you know, so it's how you apply yourself. Now, Burnley are a slightly different opposition to most teams in the Premier League with their style of play and their physicality. So it's a different kind of approach mentally today, you know, because of what we talked about just before. Lots of crosses coming into the box, early balls. They've got aerial threats from Rodriguez, aerial threats with Chris Wood. So it's not about balls being played through the middle or down the side. It's about crosses coming in the box. So your mental approach has got to be slightly different, you know. So, and that's why you hear Brendan talk that way about Burnley, because they are a slightly different footballing outfit than what you would generally find in the Premier League.
How difficult is that to combat then? Because you don't see this every week in the Premier League, as you say.
Exactly. It's more a case of, you know, call it what you want. Okay, it's 4-4-2 is a sort of a dying art form, but it still has its place in the modern game. There's no doubt about that. Yes, you need a certain type of player to play that way, but that's what Sean Dyche has built here. He's built the Burnley side that are going to play 4-4-2, and they're going to play a certain style of football. Now, you know, you probably couldn't play 4-4-2 with, you know, Jamie Vardy and Iosi Perez up front, because then you're relying on crosses coming into the box. But with the likes of Rodriguez, the likes of Barnes and the likes of Wood, you've got 2/3 centre forwards who are, you know, very adept at playing that formation, and that's in the whole. You've got to say that's what Burnley rely on, is their centre forwards getting them goals, and then one or two others chipping in. But mainly, the majority of the goals are coming from the centre forwards, and if that's not happening, then you have problems, and that's why you see Burnley have problems, because the goal scoring stats, you know, aren't stacking up at the minute, and you leave yourself open 4-4-2, because obviously a lot of teams play with the extra midfielder, and so that's why you see themselves getting picked off, and the modern day teams like to play through the middle and then create spaces out wide and stretch the game, stretch the back four. That's why they're coming up short. So, you know, it's no coincidence that when you, as I said to you before, when your strikers aren't scoring, you end up conceding.
Earlier on Matchday Live, we talked about Leicester's busy Christmas and early January period. They had a week off, but they're about to head into another busy end of January period, with, including this one, 4 games still in this first month of 2020. And Brendan Rodgers was asked if he's already looking ahead to that busy end to the month.
I think it's just one game at a time. I think that's key when they were so close together. Like you've seen over the Christmas period, so you really have to consider it, and that's what we did. But of course, we've got 5 games I think between now and the end of the month. So again, another busy schedule for us, but really exciting. You know, we've a semi-final of a cup to come, and we've got real good league games. So, but our focus is very much on Burnley. We've had a good week's training, and we needed it, just to find our identity again, and like I say, reset everything. And the boys have been superb.
8 minutes to go until kick-off here at Turf Moor for Burnley against Leicester in the Premier League. Gerry, we just heard from Brendan Rodgers there speaking about the fixture congestion, but he said it's exciting. They've got semi-finals of big competitions. They're through to the next round of the FA Cup, and it's something, I guess, that if Leicester do go on and qualify for Europe, they're going to have to get used to it for next season.
No, absolutely. I've been in this position myself domestically, where you just feel like the football's never going to come to an end, basically. And again, it's a mindset thing. It's all about getting the players in the right frame of mind to deal with a fixture pile-up that they have. So when you think about it realistically, it's only a short period of time. Next week we've got a midweek game against West Ham, and then the cup, and then the League Cup against Villa. So yeah, there's a bit of a fixture pile up again, but it's only 10 days, 11 days out of your life. So you just have to mentally prepare yourself the right way. Yes, recovery, as we spoke about before, is vital when you want your players to play the way Brendan does. So that's where the managers make their money. Is making sure that the build up to all these games is taken care of and done in the correct manner. As far as the formations and the training on the pitch is concerned, there's not a lot of jiggery-pokery needs to take place. It's all about just refreshing them, making sure they're on top of their game as far as the tempo and training is concerned, and making sure that by the time they walk out on the pitch over the next 10 to 12 days, they're in peak condition.
Leicester fans already in good voice here inside Turf Moor. They certainly like the fact that Leicester have got lots and lots of games, and they're hoping for a European tour as well at the beginning of next season. Both sets of players now in the tunnel here at Turf Moor. So a reminder, if you're listening in on social media, that feed will stop. All you need to do is head to lcfc.com/radio to hear full match commentary available for free. But it is indeed now time to hand you over to your commentary team for this afternoon's Premier League game of Gerry Taggart and John Dunn.
Madison, oh, that is absolutely brilliant, and it's a beauty. Jamie Vardy again for Leicester City. He's up and running. What a fantastic goal!
Touch, back of the net.
Come on, there's a somersault to celebrate with the travelling Blue Army.
All the games, all the goals and all the big moments. You're listening to LCFC Radio.
After 3 games in the home comforts of King Power Stadium, Leicester City are back on the road and swap the East Midlands for East Lancashire as they pitch up at Turf Moor for a Premier League clash with Burnley. Those 3 games in 3 different competitions yielded a win, a draw, and last time out, a rare Foxes defeat. Turf Moor has been a stadium that has suited Leicester City over recent years, winning 5 times on their last 7 visits, including 3 points last season, despite having only 10 men for 86 minutes. City boss Brendan Rodgers has never lost a Premier League game against the Clarets, and that isn't great news for Sean Dyche, who has lost on each occasion he has come up against a side managed by Brendan Rodgers. Dyche has seen his side slip to 5th in the Premier League table following 4 successive defeats. They start today 2 points clear of the relegation zone. Both sides have made 2 changes following defeats last weekend. For Burnley, it was a 3-0 defeat at Chelsea. Matt Lowton and Aaron Lennon dropped to the bench there, replaced by Phil Bardsley and Jay Rodriguez, who's recovered from illness. Chris Wood, former Leicester City striker, broke a nose at Chelsea and was a doubt, but Burnley's leading scorer leads the line for the Clarets this afternoon. For the Foxes, the 2 changes see Ben Chilwell and Hamza Chowdhury drop out. They've been rested by Brendan Rodgers, meaning a 6th Premier League start of the season for Christian Fuchs and a 2nd Premier League start in midfield for Pape Mendy. The Leicester lineup sees Schmeichel in goal, the defence of Ricardo, Soyuncu, Evans and Fuchs. Mendy anchoring things in midfield with the support of Perez, Maddison, Pratt and Barnes. Vardy leading the Leicester attack. 4-4-2 for the Clarets. Pope the goalkeeper, Bardsley, Tarkowski, Mee and Taylor in defence. Hendrick, Westwood, Cork and McNeil in midfield. It's Wood and it's Rodriguez up front as we sit on the back row of the main stand, or the long side stand here at Burnley. Opposite the Bob Lord stand, the old stand here at Burnley. Turf Moor has been Burnley's home since 1883. And above that small stand we see the terraced houses, the chimneys from the mills and the rolling hills. Somewhere in the distance as mist starts to descend upon Turf Moor. It's a freezing day. The sunshine was greeting us on arrival a few hours ago, but the mist has taken over, and wherever you look, it's hats, it's scarves, it's gloves, and everyone wrapping up ahead of this Premier League clash. There will be a minute's silence before kick-off as Burnley remember supporters and ex-members of the Burnley staff that have passed away during the year of 2019, and they will mark their passing with a minute's silence in a few moments' time. The 2 skippers, Ben Mee and Kasper Schmeichel, currently in the centre circle going through the pre-match coin toss. Anthony Taylor is the referee, and we will now pause for that minute's silence.
We ask all supporters to join players and staff in respecting a 1-minute silence ahead of kick-off to remember loved ones sadly lost. The names of those sadly departed will appear on the big screen and on the club's social media accounts during this time of reflection.
Leicester City players to the right of the centre circle, stripping off their tracksuit tops, heading for the far side. The kitman is descended upon by those tracksuit tops. They'll weigh him down as he leaves the field. It leaves the Leicester players applauding the Blue Army. Away to our right-hand side in the cricket field end. Leicester City all in grey this afternoon. Burnley in their traditional claret and blue jerseys, white shorts and white socks. Kasper Schmeichel all in yellow. The Leicester skipper this afternoon making a slow walk, strapping up his gloves ahead of the 90 minutes in front of him, and walking towards the stand where the Leicester City fans are housed. One half the Blue Army, the half to the right are the claret and blue Burnley supporters. Leicester then have won on their last, or 5 of their last 7 visits here to Turf Moor. Home or away, they've lost just 1 of their last 5 against Burnley. And we are underway at Turf Moor. Tarkowski immediately booting the ball to the far side. It's too high for Jay Rodriguez in his second spell now with the club, the Burnley striker. A Leicester throw that Ricardo will take. 20 yards from his own goal. Dennis Pratt, a scorer last weekend, his first Leicester City goal coming at home to Southampton. It's Perez on the halfway line, his header forward towards Vardy. Vardy touches it on to Maddison, then it's on to Harvey Barnes inside the penalty area, left hand side, looking to curl one with his right boot past 2 Burnley players. A comfortable save for Nick Pope, but early intent from the Foxes.
Yeah, he just hesitated slightly, didn't he, Harvey Barnes there? He had that little window, that far post gap there, and he just hesitated slightly instead of taking it first time, and that just enabled Pope to get himself into a decent position, and it was an easy take in the end, but a good start from Leicester.
So in shoot, as the ball is knocked over his head, looks left, looks right, just checks to see where Chris Wood was, but the ball bouncing through to Kasper Schmeichel. The first time in 5 weeks Leicester City have gone through a week without having a mid-week match. Something that Dan and Gerry talked about at length during the pre-match build-up to the game. A couple of days off early in the week. Batteries very much recharged ahead of this afternoon's clash. And as Brendan Rodgers said, Gerry, in his pre-match press conference, any game against the Sean Dyche side is a challenge, is a battle, and they're expecting a tough game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, it's the foundations, the bedrock of Burnley Football Club. You know, it's been a really good fit between Sean Dyche and Burnley, and we've seen them, you know, in recent times, you know, excel at playing a certain style of football. But just at this moment in time, you know, they're obviously struggling slightly.
As you can tell by the sounds, we are in amongst the Burnley fans at the top of the 2-tiered long side stands. To the left of us is the double-decker James Hargreaves stand. Across is the Bob Lord stand, the small, the oldest stand in the Turf Moor Stadium. Ball rolled back to Kasper Schmeichel, right-footed from the Danish Player of the Year, pinged out to the far side. Ricardo rising just over the halfway line. He goes down, along with Charlie Taylor, the left back. Both back on their feet eventually.
And that's exactly what I mean by a physical battle. Ricardo's gone up for a ball there with Charlie Taylor, and fair play Ricardo, you know, he wasn't back tonight, but Taylor likewise, you know, full-blooded challenge in there.
Johnny Evans hooking one clear as he's facing towards the Blue Army on that far side. It's Jay Rodriguez on the halfway line. Good footwork by Westwood, goes back to Tarkowski, who immediately tries a diagonal ball. Early moans and groans. Again, it was mentioned in the pre-match build-up that these fans have got frustrated in recent weeks. Those 4 games, straight defeats. They've lost 7 of their last 9. Important, Gerry, that Leicester take advantage of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what you've seen there was the ball's got rolled back to Tarkowski. He had a bit of time and space, but straight away he's looking, you know, to play the ball, a long ball, to try and get Burnley in behind.
Long ball towards Chris Wood. Soyuncu held him off, but the headed clearance came towards Rodriguez. A snapshot from the former West Brom striker who rejoined Burnley in the summer, well wide of Schmeichel's goal, but exactly what you were talking about, Gerry, the long high ball.
A long ball again aimed at, you know, Chris Wood. He's sort of done his best to keep Soyuncu at bay. It sort of bounced into no man's land, and I think it was Jay Rodriguez was first to react. Johnny Evans just coming to the rescue right at the end.
Leicester playing dangerously, but they managed to work it from their own 18-yard area into James Maddison, just inside the Burnley half. Into Harvey Barnes, back to the Burnley goal, 20 yards out, able to feed one into Christian Fuchs. There's plenty forward in grey for the Foxes. Maddison now, edge of the penalty area. Where's the number 10 for Leicester? Down the line to Harvey Barnes. It's a left-footed ball in, cleared at the near post, and it's away by Hendrick. Ricardo will give chase with Rodriguez. It's touched back to Suyuncu. Mendy onto Fuchs, rolled into Maddison, 20 yards out, looking for the run of Jamie Vardy. Just got in behind, but he's carried the ball out to this near side, the Leicester left. Maddison receiving the ball midway inside the Burnley half. Pratt wanted it, but it's gone further to the right. It's Ricardo. He's up against McNeil, comes out to Maddison, scored in this fixture last season, a free kick at that end of the ground at Leicester attacking the first half. Perez 1-2 with Ricardo, but too much on the return from the Spaniard. That rolls out. It's a Burnley goal kick.
Yeah, it's good phase of play there from Leicester, wasn't it? Nice, controlled, one-touch passing, give and goes from Ricardo, Maddison. No, so that's just all settle them into the game slightly. No, a little bit quicker. Good stuff from Leicester.
Matching the game last season, 2-1 here. Harry Maguire sent off after 4 minutes. James Maddison gave Leicester the lead. Dwight McNeil equalised soon after, and then Wes Morgan in injury time. The Leicester skipper sealed the points. The last 2 games have both ended in 2-1 victories for the Foxes. The game in October at King Power Stadium, Chris Wood had given Burnley the lead. Jamie Vardy and Yuri Tillemans with the Leicester goals, but VAR did rule out what would have been a late equaliser for the Clarets. Here's Barnes, one-on-one with Bardsley on this near side, and running at Bardsley and using his pace before checking back onto his right foot. Delivers a cross in. It's a headed clear by Charlie Taylor, former Leeds fullback, on the far side of the penalty area. Burnley moving forward. Westwood. Hendrick able to take the ball in his stride and initially got away from Fuchs, but colliding with the Austrian inside the centre circle. That's a Burnley free kick.
Yes, again, first time we've seen Burnley try and put the passing phase together in that midfield area. Good slick passing, and Christian Fuchs just a little bit off for that challenge on Jeff Hendrick. Referee in a good position to give that.
Leicester send everyone back towards their own 18-yard line, including Jamie Vardy, who scored 2 goals in his last 4 visits here to Turf Moor. McNeil is over the free kick, along with Westwood. It is Westwood towards the far side of the penalty area. Ben Mee rising the highest. Christian Fuchs stooping to head clear. McNeil sent it back in, but Vardy was in the way. And then Bardsley rolling it back to Westwood, close to the halfway line, just inside the Leicester half. And Ben Mee is the target again. He's pulled away on the far side of the penalty area. Tarkowski still forward as well. He brings Charlie Taylor into play. The left back close to the corner flag, saw his cross scooped up off the leg of Ricardo, who was sliding in to make the challenge. Still the ball on that far side, and Taylor winning it back for the Clarets. Westwood, right-footed, diagonal ball, looking for Hendrick on this right side. Spins away off the wet, greasy Turf Moor surface, and that's a Leicester City goal kick.
Yeah, and that's a big part of Burnley's play. You know, the ball's in and around the box. You know, Leicester just struggling to clear the lines. Burnley picking up all the second balls and recycling it. Yes, it's an overweighted pass there to Jeff Hendrick at the far post, but Burnley, again, big part of their play, picking up the second balls in and around the box.
Of the last 6 meetings between the sides, when there has been a winner, there's been a winner on 5 occasions. It's only been by a 1-goal advantage, or 1-goal margin. The other game was a 0-0 draw last season. The game largely forgotten in terms of the game, but will be remembered forever by the Blue Army as the life of Kumvichai was celebrated. Charlie Taylor with this Burnley throw into Westwood. He's seen plenty of the ball in the opening stages. Ben Mee, left-footed ball down the far touchline. Johnny Evans rising to head clear. Harvey Barnes coming collecting the ball on the halfway line, and Suyuncu rolling it back to Kasper Schmeichel. Clean sheet in his last away game at Newcastle, the 3-0 win for the Foxes, but Schmeichel couldn't find Ricardo on that occasion. That's got the Burnley fans chanting as Taylor comes forward to take the throw. His 3rd season since signing from Leeds. We'll get another chance to take the throw as Pratt made an interception. High ball into Chris Wood. Suyuncu coming from behind and heading clear. Mendy seemed to be fouled and was by Jack Cook, who made his 400th career start last weekend at Chelsea.
They're the battles, John. You know, right there, you just spoke about Mendy going in for that. They've got to win those battles. You know, as you see 2-3 players in and around Mendy when he's challenging for that ball, he gets a free kick. So those battles are going to come very, very important for Leicester today, in and around that middle third, that Burnley's attacking third. They have to make sure that when the ball's bouncing, they're first to it.
Mentioning landmarks such as Jack Cook, for Sean Dyche, this is his 300th league fixture as a manager, as Evans delays the free kick before eventually playing it forward to Perez across the surface here at Turf Moor. And it's on to Pratt, who's pulling away to that right side quite a bit. He's on the ball again, a flick forward that was blocked by McNeil. Falls into the centre circle. Chris Wood's pass was wayward. Barnes receiving it, plays it to Fuchs, and Barnes wants it back, but he's just lost flight of the ball as it was dropped over his head. Barnsley allowing Tarkowski to clear up the danger. It's forward to Westwood, and now it's Chris Wood able to turn on the halfway line to the right as Hendrick skips